everyone, so welcome to September's Q&A. If you guys have never seen one of my Q&As before, I do them every month, and the way I get the questions for them is you leave them behind on the previous month's video. So all of the questions I'm answering are from August's Q&A, and next month I will be answering all of the questions that you leave down in the comments of this video. Now, if I don't happen to get to your question this time, feel free to leave it again, and I will hopefully get to it next time. I'm gonna try and make this Q&A a little bit shorter than the last one, because my last one wound up being 30 minutes because I tried to get to every single question. So I've gotta make the tough decision and trim down some of the questions I take. I've been looking into getting a hedgehog as a pet. I also see there is a similar looking animal called a tenrec, which I saw in one of your videos, though I have heard they're not related. For a first-time owner, which do you think would be easier to care for and handle? Thank you. Ooh, for a first-time owner, that's a loaded question because tenrecs are very expensive, and in the US at least, they are what I would call a specialty exotic pet, which means there's not very many of them in the US, which means there's not many vets that can care for them. It also means that they're very expensive. I spent $650 on Finn alone, and then you know, his cage and all of his supplies was an additional fair bit. So they are very expensive, whereas hedgehogs tend to be expensive but lesser than a tenrec. And then as far as handling go, tenrecs are easier because they're more social animals than hedgehogs are. So complicated question. I would say for a first-time small pet owner that neither of them are super great, but it all depends on what you think you can afford and what you think you can handle. Could you do a room tour? Eventually. Would you ever get a ferret or a pair of ferrets in the future? And when do you plan on stop making videos? I have no plans on stopping. I'll do it as long as I enjoy it. And I don't plan on getting ferrets in the future. They are very mischievous, and while I have a cat, I don't want too many pets that would need like floor time, a considerable amount of floor time. So no ferrets for me. Where do you get your fleece from? And how often should you bring a tenrec to the vet? I get my fleece from the fabric store. We have Joann's Fabrics here. And so pretty much all of my fleece is from there. Like my actual cuts of fleece. And then a tenrec should go for yearly checkups. If you're able to do yearly checkups with them. Of course, vets are very, very limited, at least in the US. I can't speak for outside of the US because I don't live outside of the US. But yeah, roughly yearly, and then whenever they're sick. Does Finn eat anything other than insects? I've tried my lesser tenrec on eggs and veggies, but he doesn't want to try them. No. Finn will not eat anything but insects, which is crazy to me because there are so many things that they can eat. He won't even eat wet cat food, which I was like really excited for him to try, and he totally snubbed it. I don't know. I got a couple questions asking what channels I watch, which ones I'd recommend to people. Who I'm subscribed to should be public. You guys should be able to see who all I'm subscribed to on this channel specifically. I have two channels. I don't post videos on both. I only post videos here, but I have like a personal channel where I subscribe to like people that aren't pet related, like gamers and makeup people and whatever, like totally irrelevant to this channel. And then all of the pet tubers I subscribe to on this channel, and I believe my subscription list is public. If it's not, I will check after this and make it public. What type of hedgehog is Draco? I actually get this kind of question a lot. Both of my hedgehogs are African pygmy hedgehogs. African pygmy hedgehogs are the only kind of hedgehogs that you can keep as a pet in the US. I know some other places you can keep like Egyptian long-eared, but for the most part, wild hedgehogs are predominantly illegal to own in most places, like especially the UK, where they have European hedgehogs roaming around outside, and those are completely illegal to own as pets. How does your husband feel about your animals? My husband loves our dog and hamster, but I really want either guinea pigs or bunnies, and my husband is very hesitant. My husband is kind of indifferent to all of them. He doesn't really take care of them, so he doesn't get involved for the most part. Will you ever get a fish tank? No. Fresh or salt? Neither. I'm not into fish. Too much care, or too much maintenance for something you can't touch. How often should you give a hedgehog a bath? It's totally as needed. There's no average amount that a hedgehog needs a bath. If they're dirty and you want them clean, you give them a bath. If you use a moisturizing shampoo or oatmeal mix, should you still moisturize your hedgehog after? It depends on the hedgehog. If they have dry skin, you moisturize. Do you recommend multiple levels for hedgehogs? Nope, not at all. They have very poor eyesight, so multiple levels is difficult for them to navigate. Some hedgehogs do well, but it requires a lot of modification. How often should you give your hedgehog fruits, veggies, eggs, etc.? As often as you feel is appropriate. They're treats, so you can add them, you know, on a daily basis. If you've got a more lean hedgehog, if you've got a heavier hedgehog, I would, you know, tone it down to like once or twice a week. But again, hedgehogs are so different from hedgehog to hedgehog that it's hard for me to like give you guys timelines on stuff like that. It really depends on what you feel comfortable giving them and how often you feel comfortable doing it. I will tell you that fruits and vegetables, I don't recommend being fed every single day, because hedgehogs do not have they don't have sebum, which is what helps them digest cellulose, which is what is in fruits and vegetables. So while they can still digest fruits and vegetables, it takes a while for them to do it, and too many fruits and vegetables can cause constipation, which can cause, you know, them to be ill. I just cut my hedgehog's nails a bit too far. It stopped bleeding by now, but I'm scared for side effects or something. Could there be something wrong with him new? Do you have any tips? Usually nothing happens when you clip a hedgehog's nails too short. Like, not nothing, they bleed. But, I mean, like, no side effects from that usually happen. Fleece or bedding? I like fleece personally. Young versus old hedgehog. Depends on the hedgehog. Have you had to deal with mites and hedgies? If so, any DIY suggestions? There are no DIYs when it comes to mites on hedgehogs, unfortunately. You have to take them to the vet to get a prescription of what's called Revolution. Ivermectin is something that's really popular for small pets, but unfortunately, hedgehogs have been known to OD on ivermectin, so it's not recommended to be given to them. Sometimes topically it's okay, but even then you really need to know the proper dosage, in which case I would ask you to still go see a vet. But Revolution is the safest option for them, and that can only be prescribed from a vet. What do you set your CHE thermostat at? I think 80 or like 78. Draco's is at 78. And Blaze's is at about 80. And they're set differently because heat rises, so Draco's cage stays warmer than Blaze's does because Blaze is on the bottom and Draco's on the top. I've seen people giving their hedgehogs sand baths. Isn't this going to make their skin even more dry? Is this safe, and do they like it? Hedgehogs do not need sand baths. In fact, they shouldn't have sand baths. Especially like not a sand bath that you can keep in their cage, because then you run the risk of them getting sand in their penile sheath or vaginal canal, which can cause a load of issues. So you definitely don't want to repeatedly expose them to sand. Some people like take their hedgehogs to the beach, and that's one thing because you can take them home and wash them right after. But repeatedly exposing them to sand is not going to benefit them at all. Not only that, but it will eventually dry their skin out more. They don't know how to take actual sand baths and exfoliate with the sand, so it doesn't help them any. Can hedgehogs eat cat treats like once in a while as a treat? Yeah, as long as they are a good quality cat treat, you're not gonna wanna feed them like junk. Just make sure that whatever's in the cat treat is safe for them. I'm looking into getting guinea pigs and want to be fully prepared. On average, how much hay do you go through a month for Mary and Pippin? I go through a 10-pound box of Small Pet Select hay for my pigs every month. I only have 2 pigs, but I have boars, and they tend to pull their hay out of their hay rack, which drives me nuts, because once they pee on it, they won't eat it. But yeah, I go through 10 pounds a month, which costs me roughly $30. Should hedgehogs gain weight before winter since they're African pygmy hedgehogs? I don't know. My little Ruby gained about 40 grams. Now she's 460. Is that too much? So, hedgehog weight is definitely a complicated topic because hedgehogs are a lot like humans. The weight varies depending on how big they are, like long, how much they run, how active they are in general, how much you're feeding. Like, it varies so much. There is no actual average weight for an adult hedgehog. But about your initial question, no, hedgehogs should not be gaining weight for the winter because they don't hibernate, which means they're not going to be working it off. They should stay, as adults, should stay one stable weight pretty much their entire adult lives. If your hedgehog is consistently gaining weight, you may be feeding it too much, or the fat content in their food might be too much. But I couldn't tell you whether or not your hedgehog was overweight or not, because I can't see your hedgehog. The best way to know that would be to join like a Facebook forum or something where you can post photos of your hedgehog and people can tell you whether the shape looks good. Or you can tweet me. Yeah, tweet me. That might be an easy way to for me to see their general shape. A photo from them from above them, like if they're standing and looking forward and you take a photo from above, is one of the best ways to tell. Another way to tell whether or not they're overweight is if they can't fully close when they ball up. And the final way to tell is if they have little fat rolls behind their legs. A lot of people call them saddlebags or love handles. They shouldn't have like pinchy little cheeks, which when Draco was overweight, he had his little saddlebags. But yeah, they shouldn't have those. So yeah, if you need any help with that, if you have a Twitter, send me a photo and I can sort of judge your hedgehog's general size. But there is no exact number because hedgehogs come in all lengths and shapes and sizes, and some of them are more active and others are less active, and there's a big spectrum, kind of just like people. So yeah, that's it for questions for this month. If you have any questions for next month, feel free to leave them down in the comments. And if, of course, I missed your question from last month, which I think I got through most of them, but if I didn't get to yours, go ahead and leave it again if you still need the answer, and I will try and get to it next month. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in my next video, hopefully. Bye.